The church bells tolled, but Riley's heart pounded louder, drowning out the chime with a rhythm of dread. She stood frozen in her ivory gown, the lace train pooling like spilled milk on the cobblestone path, as her golden retriever, Jasper, planted himself firmly in front of her, growling softly. His amber eyes, usually warm with loyalty, now held a strange urgency, as if he knew something she didn't. Riley, 28, a graphic designer with a penchant for sketching cityscapes, had always trusted Jasper's instincts. He'd been her shadow through Seattle's rainy streets, her confidant when her engagement to Ethan felt like a puzzle with missing pieces. Today, on what was supposed to be the happiest day of her life, Jasper's refusal to budge felt like a warning she couldn't ignore. "Buddy, what's wrong?" she whispered, kneeling despite the risk to her dress. The crowd behind her, friends, family, Ethan's polished colleagues, murmured impatiently, but Riley's world narrowed to her dog's unwavering stare. She tugged gently at his collar, but Jasper's paws remained rooted. Then, in a swift motion, he turned and bolted toward the church's side garden, where ivy clung to weathered stone walls. Riley hesitated, her heels sinking into the soft earth, but something in Jasper's purposeful stride pulled her forward. She followed, her heart racing, unaware that this moment would unravel everything she thought she knew about love, trust, and herself. The garden was a quiet oasis, fragrant with late summer roses and the faint hum of bees. Riley's eyes darted around, searching for what had spooked Jasper. He stopped near a wrought iron bench, nosing at something tucked beneath it. She crouched, her gown brushing the dirt, and retrieved a small, weathered notebook, its leather cover embossed with a single initial. See, her breath caught. She knew that initial, though she hadn't spoken the name in years. Clara. The name alone was a tide pulling her back to a summer 5 years ago, when she was 23, fearless, and falling in love for the first time. Clara Martinez, 27, a poet with a laugh like wind chimes and eyes that held entire galaxies, had been Riley's everything during their internship at a Seattle arts collective. They'd spent nights reading poetry under streetlights, their hands brushing as they passed dog-eared books, their hearts sinking in a rhythm neither could name. But Clara had left abruptly, chasing a fellowship in New York, leaving Riley with a half-finished sketch and a heart full of questions. Riley opened the notebook, her fingers trembling. The pages were filled with Clara's slanted handwriting, poems, musings, and, on the last page, a letter dated 3 months ago. "Riley, I never stopped loving you. I'm back in Seattle. If you're reading this, it's because fate decided we deserve a second chance. I'll be at the old pier tonight, 7 p.m. Her eyes stung as she read the final line. "If you're happy, I'll walk away." But I had to try. The world tilted. Ethan, 30, a charming lawyer with a smile that won courtrooms and her parents' approval, was waiting inside the church. He was steady, predictable, everything Clara hadn't been. Yet, as Riley clutched the notebook, Jasper's warm fur pressed against her leg, she felt the weight of a truth she'd buried. She'd never loved Ethan the way she'd loved Clara. The realization was a blade, sharp and clean, cutting through the life she'd built to please everyone but herself. "Riley," Ethan's voice broke through, concerned but tinged with impatience. He stood at the garden's edge, his suit pristine, his blonde hair catching the sunlight. "What's going on? We're late." His eyes flicked to Jasper, then the notebook, a frown creasing his brow. I need a minute," Riley stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. Jasper whined, nudging her hand, as if urging her to decide. The notebook burned in her grip, Clara's words echoing like a heartbeat. She looked at Ethan, his confusion mirroring her own, and knew she couldn't walk down that aisle. Not yet. Riley slipped out of the church through a side door, Jasper trotting beside her. The Seattle air was crisp, carrying the salt of Puget Sound and the promise of answers. She drove to their old apartment in Capitol Hill, a cozy loft where she and Clara had once danced to vinyl records, their laughter filling the space. The notebook lay on the passenger seat, a silent passenger demanding her attention. Inside, she sat cross-legged on the floor, Jasper curling up beside her. She reread Clara's letter, each word a thread pulling her back to that summer. Clara had been her mirror, reflecting parts of Riley she hadn't known existed, her courage, her capacity for a love that felt like flying. But Clara's departure had left Riley doubting herself, choosing Ethan's stability over the uncertainty of her own heart. Her phone buzzed. Text from her maid of honor, Lila, 29, a bubbly marketing manager with a knack for diffusing tension. "Where are you?" "Ethan's freaking out." Riley ignored it, her focus on the notebook's final page. Clara was at the pier waiting. The clock read 6:30 p.m. She had 30 minutes to decide her future. Riley drove to the waterfront, Jasper's head out the window, his ears flapping in the wind. The pier was alive with tourists and street performers, but Riley's eyes scanned for Clara. She spotted her near the railing, her silhouette unmistakable despite the years. Clara's hair, once short, now cascaded in waves, and her posture held the same quiet strength Riley had loved. At 32, Clara was more grounded, her poet's soul tempered by time. "Riley." Clara's voice was soft, tentative as she turned. Her eyes, dark and searching, met Riley's, and the world fell away. Jasper wagged his tail, recognizing Clara instantly, and bounded toward her. Clara laughed, kneeling to scratch his ears, and the sound unlocked something in Riley's chest. "I found your notebook," Riley said, holding it up. "Jasper led me to it." Clara's smile faded, replaced by a vulnerability Riley hadn't seen before. "I didn't know if you'd come. I heard you were getting married today." "I was supposed to," Riley admitted, her voice cracking. "But Jasper, he knew something I didn't. Or maybe I did, but I was too scared to face it." They stood in silence, the waves lapping below, Jasper sitting between them like a bridge. Clara reached out, her hand hovering before touching Riley's. "I never should have left without explaining," she said. "I was scared too. Scared of how much I loved you. I thought I needed to find myself. But all I found was how much I missed you." Riley's throat tightened. She wanted to ask why Clara hadn't called, why she'd waited until now. But the answers felt less important than the warmth of Clara's hand. "I don't know what happens next," Riley said, her voice raw. "But I know I can't go back to that church." Clara's eyes softened. "You don't have to decide everything tonight. Just stay with me a little longer." They walked along the pier, Jasper trotting ahead, as the sun dipped below the horizon. Riley felt the weight of her wedding dress in the car, a symbol of a life she'd almost chosen. For the first time in years, she felt free, tethered only to the possibility of a truth she was finally brave enough to chase. The pier stretched into the twilight, its wooden planks creaking under Riley's steps as she walked beside Clara, Jasper weaving between them. The air was thick with the scent of saltwater and fried clams from nearby vendors, but Riley's world was the quiet space between her and Clara, electric with unspoken questions. She clutched the notebook, its leather warm from her grip, as if it held the answers to the chaos in her heart. Clara stopped near a weathered railing, her fingers tracing the grain of the wood. "I used to come here after I left," she said, her voice low. "I'd sit and write, hoping somehow you'd feel the words across the miles." At 32, Clara's face carried new lines, evidence of years spent chasing dreams in New York, only to return to Seattle with a heart still tethered to Riley. Riley wanted to ask why Clara hadn't reached out sooner, but the question felt like a bruise she wasn't ready to press. Instead, she said, "I stopped coming here after you left. It hurt too much." Her eyes drifted to Jasper, who sat watching them, his tail thumping softly. "He's the one who brought me back." Clara's laugh was soft, tinged with regret. "He always was smarter than us." She knelt to pet Jasper, her fingers lingering on his fur. "I wrote that letter 3 months ago, but I couldn't bring myself to send it. I hid it in the garden, hoping I don't know, maybe hoping fate would decide for me." Riley's chest ached. She thought of Ethan, waiting at the church, his confusion turning to worry, maybe anger. She'd left her phone in the car, silencing the world beyond this pier. "I was about to marry him," she said, the words heavy. "I thought it was what I wanted, what everyone wanted for me." Clara stood, her eyes searching Riley's. "Do you love him?" The question was a mirror, reflecting a truth Riley had dodged for months. "I thought I did," she admitted. "He's kind, ambitious, everything I was told I should want. But standing here with you, it's like I'm remembering who I am." Clara's hand found hers, a tentative touch that sent warmth through Riley's veins. "You don't have to have all the answers now," Clara said. "But I'm here, Riley. I'm not running this time." They sat on a bench overlooking the water, Jasper curling up at their feet. The skyline glittered, Seattle's lights a constellation of possibilities. Riley opened the notebook again, flipping through Clara's poems. One caught her eye, titled for our. "Your laughter is a map I lost, but I'm still searching for home." Tears pricked her eyes. "You wrote this for me?" "Every word," Clara said, her voice thick. "I never stopped." The moment stretched, fragile and perfect, until Riley's phone buzzed from the car, a distant reminder of the life she'd paused. She ignored it, but the sound pulled her back to reality. "I need to face Ethan," she said, dread pooling in her stomach. "He deserves to know why I left." Clara nodded, her expression steady but pained. "Do you want me to come with you?" Riley shook her head. "This is something I have to do alone." She stood, Jasper rising with her, and hugged Clara tightly, breathing in the familiar scent of lavender and ink. "But I'll find you after." Riley drove back to the church, the city a blur of neon and rain. Jasper sat quietly in the back seat, his presence a steady anchor. The parking lot was nearly empty now, the guests likely gone, but Ethan's car was still there, a sleek black sedan under a street lamp. Riley's heart thudded as she stepped out, her sneakers, swapped for her heels, sinking into the wet gravel. Ethan was inside, sitting in a pew, his tie loosened, his face a mix of relief and frustration when he saw her. "Riley, what the hell happened?" he asked, standing. At 30, Ethan's charm was undeniable, but tonight, his blue eyes held a vulnerability she hadn't seen before. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice trembling. "I couldn't go through with it." His jaw tightened. "Because of a dog? Or is there something else?" His gaze fell to the notebook in her hand, and understanding dawned. "Who's Clara?" Riley swallowed, the truth clawing its way out. "She's someone I loved before I met you. Someone I never really let go of." The words felt like a confession, raw and liberating. "I thought I could build a life with you, Ethan, but I was lying to myself. And to you." Ethan's face softened, then hardened again. "You're throwing away everything we planned for someone from your past?" His voice rose, echoing in the empty church. "Riley, we have a life. Apartment, friends, a future." "I know," she said, tears spilling over. "But it's not my future. I can't marry you when my heart's somewhere else." He stared at her, the silence heavy. Jasper whined softly, pressing against her leg. Finally, Ethan nodded, his shoulders slumping. "I hope you find what you're looking for," he said, his voice breaking. He walked past her, pausing at the door. "Take care of yourself, Riley." She watched him go, the weight of her decision settling like dust. Jasper licked her hand, and she sank to the floor, the notebook clutched to her chest. She'd broken Ethan's heart, and maybe her own, but for the first time, she felt like she was choosing herself. Riley drove to Capitol Hill, where Clara was staying at a friend's apartment. The building was a quirky mix of old brick and modern art, murals splashing color across the walls. Clara opened the door, her eyes widening at Riley's tear-streaked face. "What happened?" she asked, pulling Riley inside. "I told him," Riley said, sinking onto a couch. Jasper flopped beside her, his head in her lap. "It's over." Clara sat across from her, her expression a mix of hope and caution. "Are you okay?" "I don't know," Riley admitted. "I feel like I've burned my life down, but I also feel free." She looked at Clara, her heart racing. "I don't know what this means for us, but I want to find out." Clara reached for her hand, her touch steady. "We'll figure it out together," she said. "No pressure, no rush. Just us." They talked until midnight, sharing stories of the years apart. Clara's lonely nights in New York, Riley's quiet days sketching Seattle's skyline. Jasper snored softly, a reminder of the bond that had brought them back together. As the clock struck 1, Riley leaned against Clara, their shoulders touching, and felt a flicker of the love they'd once had, ready to be rekindled. The morning sun filtered through Clara's apartment, casting soft light on the hardwood floor where Jasper sprawled, his golden fur glowing. Riley, still in yesterday's clothes, sipped coffee from a chipped mug, her eyes tracing the murals on the walls, vibrant depictions of Seattle's history, painted by Clara's friend, Mara, 31, an artist with a flair for bold colors. The air smelled of roasted beans and possibility, but Riley's heart was a tangle of hope and fear. Clara sat across from her, her laptop open to a half-written poem. At 32, she had a quiet intensity, her poet's soul now grounded by years of searching. "What's next for you?" she asked, her voice gentle but probing. "You walked away from a wedding, Riley. That's not small." Riley set her mug down, her fingers tracing its rim. "I don't know," she admitted. "I need to talk to my family, my friends. They're probably furious." Her phone, now charged, buzzed with unread messages. Lila's worry, her parents' confusion, Ethan's silence. She hadn't looked at them, afraid of the judgment waiting. Clara closed her laptop, her eyes soft. "You don't have to face them alone. I can be there if you want." Riley hesitated. She wanted Clara's support, but the idea of facing her parents, Carol, 58, a librarian with a love for order, and David, 60, a retired engineer who valued tradition, felt like walking into a storm. They'd adored Ethan, seen him as the perfect son-in-law. How could she explain that her heart had always belonged to someone else? "I need to do this part on my own," Riley said, echoing her words from the pier. "But I'll need you after." Clara nodded, squeezing her hand, and Riley felt a spark of courage. Riley drove to her parents' house in Queen and Jasper in the back seat, his calm presence steadying her. The house, a craftsman with a wraparound porch, was as familiar as her own heartbeat, but today it felt like foreign territory. Her mother opened the door, her face a mix of relief and frustration. "Riley, where have you been?" Carol asked, pulling her into a hug that felt more like a tether. David stood behind, his arms crossed. "You left Ethan at the altar. We deserve an explanation." Inside, Riley sat on the couch, Jasper at her feet, and told them everything. Clara, the notebook, the truth she'd buried. Her parents listened, their expressions shifting from shock to unease. "You're throwing away a good man for someone who left you?" David asked, his voice sharp. "Riley, this isn't like you. It's exactly like me," she said, her voice steady despite the tears. I've been hiding who I am to make everyone else happy. Clara, she sees me, Dad. She always has. Carol's eyes softened, but her voice was cautious. We just want you to be sure, honey. This is a big change. I'm sure, Riley said, the words anchoring her. I don't know what happens next, but I know I can't go back. Her parents exchanged a look, the kind that carried years of unspoken understanding. We love you, Carol said finally. We'll need time, but we'll figure this out together. Riley left feeling lighter, though the weight of their disappointment lingered. Jasper nudged her hand, and she smiled, grateful for his unwavering loyalty. Back at Clara's apartment, Riley found Mara there, her paint-splattered jeans a stark contrast to Clara's quiet elegance. Mara, with her infectious energy, hugged Riley like an old friend. Heard you caused a scene yesterday, she teased, winking. Welcome to the Chaos Club. Clara laughed, tossing a pillow at Mara. Leave her alone. She's been through enough. They spent the afternoon talking, Mara sharing stories of her latest art show, Clara reading a new poem inspired by the pier. Riley felt like she was slipping back into a version of herself she'd forgotten. Bold, creative, alive. But the weight of her decision pressed against her. She'd left a life behind, and the future was a blank canvas, beautiful but terrifying. That evening, Clara suggested a walk through Volunteer Park, a sprawling green space where they'd once spent hours sketching and dreaming. Jasper bounded ahead, chasing squirrels, as Riley and Clara walked shoulder to shoulder. I'm scared, Riley admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. What if I made the wrong choice? Clara stopped, turning to face her. You chose yourself, Riley. That's never wrong. She brushed a strand of hair from Riley's face, her touch lingering. We'll take it one day at a time, okay? Riley nodded, her heart swelling. They sat on a bench, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of pink and gold. Jasper flopped beside them, his warmth a reminder of the journey that had led her here. For the first time in years, Riley felt like she was exactly where she was meant to be. The next day, Riley met Lila at a coffee shop in Fremont, a quirky neighborhood known for its eclectic vibe. Lila, 29, with her bright smile and knack for seeing the best in people, hugged Riley tightly. You scared the hell out of me, she said, sliding into a booth. But I'm proud of you. That took guts. Riley smiled, grateful for Lila's support. I didn't plan it, she said, stirring her latte. Jasper, he knew something I didn't. Lila laughed, petting Jasper under the table. He's the real MVP. So, what's the deal with Clara? Riley's cheeks warmed. She's everything, but it's complicated. I'm still figuring out who I am without Ethan's world shaping me. Lila nodded, her eyes thoughtful. You're allowed to take your time, Ree. Just don't shut her out. She sounds like she's worth it. They talked for hours, the conversation a lifeline to the friendships Riley feared she'd lose. As she left, Lila's words echoed. You're allowed to take your time. Riley clung to them, a reminder that healing wasn't linear, but it was possible. That night, Clara cooked dinner, pasta with homemade sauce, the kitchen filled with the scent of garlic and basil. They ate on the floor, Jasper begging for scraps, and laughed until their sides ached. Riley looked at Clara, her heart full, and realized she was falling in love all over again. Not just with Clara, but with the life she was building, one brave choice at a time. Riley woke to the sound of rain tapping against Clara's apartment window, a soft rhythm that matched the quiet hope in her chest. Jasper lay sprawled across the foot of the bed, his snores a comforting constant. At 28, Riley felt like she was starting over, her life a sketch she was redrawing with bolder lines. Clara, still asleep, her dark hair fanned across the pillow, looked like a poem Riley wanted to memorize. The past week had been a whirlwind. moving out of the apartment she'd shared with Ethan, fielding calls from confused friends, and navigating her parents' cautious support. But with Clara, every moment felt like a step towards something true. Today, they'd planned to visit the arts collective where they'd met, a place that held memories of their younger selves. At the collective, a renovated warehouse in Belltown, the air smelled of paint and possibility. Mara was there, leading a workshop for young artists, her energy infectious. "You two are glowing," she teased, nudging Riley. "Must be love." Clara rolled her eyes, but her smile betrayed her. She led Riley to a corner where their old sketches and poems were pinned to a corkboard, relics of a summer that had changed them both. "Look at us," Clara said, tracing a drawing of the Space Needle Riley had done at 23. "We were so young. We were fearless," Riley said, her voice soft. She picked up a poem Clara had written, the words a snapshot of their love. "Her eyes are the city at dusk, alive with secrets. I missed this. I missed you." Clara's hand found hers, their fingers interlocking. "I'm here now," she said, "and I'm not going anywhere." They spent the day painting, laughing, and stealing glances, Jasper napping in a corner. Riley felt a spark she hadn't in years, her creativity reignited by Clara's presence. But as they left, a familiar voice stopped her cold. "Riley." Ethan stood in the doorway, his suit rumpled, his eyes tired. At 30, he looked older, the weight of their breakup etched into his face. "Can we talk?" Clara tensed beside her, but Riley nodded. "Give us a minute," she told Clara, who hesitated before stepping outside with Jasper. Ethan's voice was low, controlled. "I've been trying to understand why. I thought we were happy." Riley's throat tightened. "I thought so too," she said. "But I was living for everyone else. My parents, our friends, you. I wasn't honest with myself." He nodded, his jaw tight. "And Clara? Is she what you want?" "Yes," Riley said, the word a quiet vow. "I'm sorry, Ethan. I never meant to hurt you." He looked away, his hands in his pockets. "I loved you, Riley. I still do. But I can't compete with who you are." He paused, then added, "Take care of Jasper. He's a good dog." As Ethan walked away, Riley felt a pang of loss, not for him, but for the life she'd almost lived. Clara returned, her eyes searching. "You okay?" Riley nodded, taking her hand. "I'm ready to move forward." That evening, they went to a poetry reading at a small bookstore in Pioneer Square. Clara read a new piece, her voice weaving magic through the crowded room. Riley watched, her heart swelling with pride and love. Jasper, curled up at her feet, seemed to sense the moment's weight. After, they walked through the city, the rain a soft curtain around them. Riley stopped under a streetlight, her breath visible in the cool air. "I'm falling for you again," she said, her voice raw. "But I'm scared I'll mess this up." Clara stepped closer, her eyes steady. "We'll mess up sometimes, but we'll fix it together." She kissed Riley, soft and sure, and the world felt right. The next day, Riley started sketching again, her pencil capturing Clara's profile, Jasper's sleepy eyes, the city's heartbeat. She felt like she was reclaiming herself, piece by piece. But a call from her mother brought new tension. "We'd like to meet Clara," Carol said. "If she's important to you, we want to know her." Riley agreed, nervous but hopeful. She and Clara planned a dinner at her parents' house, a chance to bridge the past and present. As they shopped for ingredients, Clara's laughter filled the grocery store, and Riley felt a surge of gratitude for this second chance. Dinner was tense at first, David's questions about Clara's career sharp, Carol's smiles cautious. But Clara's warmth disarmed them, her stories of New York and her love for Riley softening their edges. Jasper, ever the peacemaker, charmed them with his tricks, earning treats from Carol. As they left, David pulled Riley aside. I see how you look at her, he said, his voice gruff but kind. You're happy. That's enough for me. Riley hugged him, tears in her eyes. In the car, Clara squeezed her hand. We did it, she said, and Riley laughed, the sound free and light. Back at Clara's apartment, they danced to an old record, Jasper watching with a wagging tail. Riley felt the weight of the past lifting, replaced by a future she could shape with Clara by her side. Months passed, and Seattle's seasons shifted from autumn's gold to winter's silver. Riley and Clara built a life together, their days filled with small, beautiful moments. Morning coffee, late-night poetry, walks with Jasper through snowy parks. At 28, Riley was rediscovering herself, her sketches now vibrant with color, inspired by Clara's love and Jasper's loyalty. Clara, 32, was writing again, her poems published in local journals, each one a love letter to Riley and their city. But healing wasn't linear. Riley still carried guilt for hurting Ethan, and Clara wrestled with her own regrets for leaving years ago. They argued sometimes about Riley's late nights at the studio, Clara's tendency to retreat into her work, but each fight ended with honest words and tighter hugs, Jasper always nearby, a furry mediator. One evening, as snow fell outside, Riley found Clara staring at the notebook from the church garden, its pages worn from handling. I keep thinking about how close we came to missing this, Clara said, her voice soft. If Jasper hadn't found this. Riley sat beside her, Jasper's head in her lap. He knew, she said, smiling. He's always known what I needed. Clara leaned against her, their warmth a shield against the cold. I want to build something with you, Riley. Not just now, but for good. Riley's heart raced. What are you saying? I'm saying I want forever, Clara said, her eyes bright. But only if you do. Riley kissed her, the answer in her touch. I do. They planned a commitment ceremony, not a wedding, but a celebration of their love, held at Volunteer Park under a canopy of cherry blossoms. Mara officiated, her vibrant energy lighting up the small crowd. Riley's parents, Lila, and a few close friends from the arts collective. Jasper, adorned with a bow tie, carried the rings in a pouch around his neck, his tail wagging as he trotted to Clara. Riley wore a simple white dress, Clara a tailored suit, their hands clasped as they exchanged vows. I promise to choose you every day, Riley said, her voice steady. To be brave, to be honest, to love you fiercely. Clara's eyes shone with tears. I promise to stay, to write you into every poem, to build a home with you and Jasper. As they kissed, the crowd cheered, and Jasper barked, his joy echoing through the park. Riley looked at Clara, her heart full, and knew this was the truth Jasper had led her to, a love that was hers, unapologetically. Years later, Riley and Clara lived in a small house in Fremont, its walls covered in their art and poetry. Jasper, now gray around the muzzle, still followed them everywhere, his loyalty unwavering. Riley's graphic design business thrived, and Clara's first poetry collection was set to publish, dedicated to Riley and Jasper. One evening, as they sat on their porch, Jasper curled between them. Riley traced Clara's hand, her ring catching the moonlight. I used to think happiness was something I had to earn, she said. But you and Jasper, you showed me it's something I choose. Clara smiled, her eyes warm. We chose each other. Jasper lifted his head, his amber eyes bright, and Riley laughed, the sound carrying into the night. Her wedding day had been a shattering, but it had broken her open to a life more honest, more vibrant than she'd ever imagined. With Clara by her side and Jasper at her feet, Riley knew she'd found her truth. Not in a church, but in the love that had always been waiting.